Second, the legislation will encourage a rich and challenging learning environment, and it will promote best practices and innovation taking place in schools throughout the country. In so many meetings that I attend in my district and across the country, employers say that the high school students are not prepared for the workplace, and the colleges tell us that the high school students are not ready for the college classroom. This is simply unacceptable. In the bill, we will ask employers and the colleges to come together as stakeholders with the state educators to jointly develop more rigorous standards that meets the demands of both of these groups. Many states have already started this process. We seek to build and complement on the work that our nation governors and provide them with incentives to continue their work. This requires that assessments be fully aligned with the new state standards and include multiple measures of success. These measures can no longer reflect just basic skills and memorization, but rather critical thinking and the ability to apply knowledge to new and challenging contexts. These are the skills that today's students will need to meet the complex demands of the American economy and society in a globalized world. To achieve this goal, schools must no longer prepare our students to be autonomous problem solvers. The workplace they enter tomorrow will increasingly require them to work in teams, collaborating across companies, communities, and continents. They will have to draw on different sources of information to solve problems and assemble solutions. These skills cannot be developed solely by a simple multiple-choice exam. For too long, we have settled for standards and assessments that do not measure the high goals that we have for our kids and the skills that they must achieve. But let none of us for a moment believe that our students will be able to participate in this interactive and participatory culture and workplace if they cannot read, write, and understand mathematics. Therefore, the bill will say that if states take this step to commit to the students of their state, that they will prepare them for the universities and the jobs of the future, we will provide them with incentives to do so. Third, the legislation will support teachers and principals. Even with all of these changes, we will not meet our national goal of closing the achievement gap until and unless we close the teacher quality gap. All children deserve their fair share of teacher talent and expertise. We must do more to ensure that poor and minority students are taught by teachers with expertise in the subject matters in which they're teaching. I have heard from so many teachers who feel they are no longer viewed as critical partners in an educational system, but merely the instrument to satisfy minimum attainment goals. As a nation, we are not offering teachers the respect and the support they deserve today, and as a result, we are facing a very real teacher shortage crisis. Particularly in urban and rural communities, in subjects like math, science, foreign language, for children with disabilities and children learning English, we must hire, train, and retain excellent teachers. No factor matters more to a child's educational success than the quality of his or her teacher and principal. That's why teachers and principals deserve all of the support we can give them to help them do their jobs well. For this reason, the legislation I will introduce will provide for performance pay for teachers and principals based upon fair and proven models, teacher mentoring and teacher career ladders. It will also provide incentives consistent with the TEACH Act that I introduced 2 years ago that will help bring top teacher talent into the classrooms where they're needed most. Fourth, the legislation will continue to hold schools accountable for student progress. Under current law, schools whose students have not made adequate achievement gains are treated the same under the law today, with the same interventions and sanctions taking place over the same period of time. We need to distinguish between schools, their problems, their needs, and directed reforms and assistance. Schools with specific problems in specific areas should be allowed to use instructional interventions that are appropriate to their needs. High priority schools, meanwhile, must receive more intensive support and assistance. I am pleased that the Appropriations Committee has already committed significant new funding for this purpose next year. And fifth, the legislation will join the effort to improve America's high schools. We must be part of the solution to addressing our unacceptably high dropout rate. Over 30% of all high school students do not receive a diploma. America is better than that, and we can no longer give up on these students by allowing them to give up on school. The bill will include comprehensive steps to turn around low-performing high schools, uniform standards for measuring graduation rates that are fair, accurate, and reliable, and will do more to keep students in school. I tip my hat to the governors for the leadership on this area and look forward to working with them as we benefit and build on their reforms. As we concentrate on the schools that are in need of improvement, we must also remember that there are remarkable examples today of schools in very difficult environments, in very difficult settings, where students are soaring and the achievement gap is closing. We must celebrate and reward these successes. Our bill will help sustain them, build on them, and bring them to scale. We must learn from their successes and help make these superstar schools the norm in communities across the country. Sixth and finally, the legislation will invest in our schools. This new direction for education in America is predicated on the premise that there is a growing consensus in this country that there is a need for greater and sustained investment in American education. The Democratic leadership in this new Congress has started this new era of investment in this session, beginning with the continuing resolution funding in the first part of the session, the appropriations bill under consideration now, the Innovation and Competitiveness Agenda, and the College Cost Reduction Act. I expect this legislation will follow suit. Much has been made of the unusual coalition that authored No Child Left Behind and the important role that President Bush played. Now the discussion has shifted to No Child Left Behind as the most important domestic bipartisan legacy of this president. I would only say this: that President Bush's legacy cannot be established if he vetoes the education funding in the labor HHS appropriations bill. The legacy of a great American education system for our children and our country will not be built on the cheap, and America deserves better. In closing today, I want to talk why it's so important that we get this right. Our public education system has many critical roles and responsibilities to play in our society. So much of who we are and where we are going is a product of this system and combined with our families and our communities. Social and economic opportunities begin in the classroom. Discovery and innovation begins in the classroom. Economic growth and economic disparity begin in the classroom. That is why it is essential that we have a high quality and engaged education system for the continuous redeeming of America's promise of equality for all people to fully participate in this thriving democratic system. I believe that with this new direction in education for America, we will be able to have a new opportunity to succeed. So many leaders from the business community, the education community, the civil rights community, and Americans from all across the country have contributed to so much understanding and rigor to this reauthorization process, and I certainly want to thank them so very much. Today, I'm as excited and as hopeful as I've ever been at any time in my 30 years in Congress. The prospects of finally realizing the vision of an excellent education opportunity for every child is available to us in America. Thank you very much.